There it is.
Would you look at that?
Bring up the controls.
That's pretty nifty.
And I zoom in.
Did you guys sign this already?
Oh, no, I need a pen. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, not yet. I'm stuck at me. Can I borrow that real quick? Thanks. Thank you. I can just send
Let's go ahead and get started. If you're just coming in, go ahead and sit down and get logged in at a PC. I'm going to talk a little bit first, and then I'll have you bring up some files on your PC. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we're going to accomplish today. You might have some questions from tutorial 1. We're going to take a little bit of time to review some of the terminology there. I want to preview tutorial 2. As I said, it starts getting a little more interesting, so we'll do that. I am hoping that we have time for these 2 things. I have an in-class activity for you to do that, yes, is worth some points if you do it and submit it. And so, just for future reference, if we do an in-class activity and you are not here, you don't get points for in-class activity. That's exactly what it is. It's work that's done in the classroom. You get points for being here. And so don't say, I missed in-class activities. How can I make it up? Yes.
So say we ran over in time and we need to do it today. Is that something we just do?
Then I'll let you know that either we'll do it in another class or I might assign it as an online activity then for you to do. And I'll let you know that. I think we will. You guys are I can tell already, this is really a good group, so I think we will. And I want to allow the last 15 minutes for you to get together again with your project team. We're not going to have time every class period to do that. So just so that you know, but at least for today, I want to give the last 15 minutes where you can connect with your project team. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do as I discuss tutorial 1 and preview tutorial 2 actually, is we are going to use one of the files that you submitted from your case study. It's the one that's called New Home. And I asked you to put your initials on there. So if you did not bring that with you on a flash drive, you should be able to get it off of the D2L Dropbox. Because that was one of the files that was asked to be submitted today. Yes?
With the case studies, I couldn't find the work for the case 4 study. It was the folder was empty.
You started over.
Oh, did you start a new one? Yeah. Oh, okay.
So yeah, and it will generally tell you that. And in fact, as you guys are bringing up, getting those files, I want to talk a little bit about your textbook because I noticed that many of you sent a number of files for each case problem. And yeah, and I thought, wow, that's good. People sent me print screens and all kinds of stuff, PDFs of the network diagram. And so what that tells me is you're wanting to be very thorough and you're thinking, when in doubt, I'm just gonna do all kinds of things. Now, let me just say, both in class and in the real world, that's not always the best thing to do. Because now I have like 200 files in my Dropbox. So, and your supervisor or your project manager might get overwhelmed also. So, but good to start out, to be on the safe side, and so it just reminded me that I need to explain a little bit more about what you need to submit through the Dropbox. So, you had to do the case studies, all 4 of them. And in your book, on page 58, on page 58, and this will be true at the end of every tutorial, it will tell you what the ending files are, the names of them, which is good whenever you're hunting, trying to find out, what was the file for that. So it tells you what the files are here, and notice that they are all MPP files, which means Microsoft Project file. So you do not have to take print screens or you don't have to create PDFs. I mean, some of you were just more than thorough there. Because when you send me your project file, I'll be able to see your network diagram. I'll be able to see your calendar. All I have to do is click on those views and I will see them. So that's why you don't have to send me all of those different views. Now remember that I told you that in some of them, it'll say, ask you a question, like in number 11. Did you notice anything different about this view? I told you that you don't have to send me answers to those in a Word document. Be prepared to, we might discuss them, but you don't have to send those to me as a Word document. Now I mentioned that, and I think I might have even put it on your D2L shell, but I realized in the beginning there's a lot going on, and so you just did overkill, which, like I said, is fine, but I don't want all those files. I just want, usually, well, whatever it says at the back of that, I will ask for that particular one, or I might say in the Dropbox, submit this and this, or something along those lines. Okay, does that make sense? So yeah.
One class we had to zip all the files, put all of them in one zip.
And somebody did that too and said, I'm going to zip all these files, let me know if this is how you want them or not. You don't have to zip them, and in fact, if it's one file, of course, you don't have to zip them. But if you want to do that, that's fine. Sometimes it's easier for you to send if you zip them all first and send them in that way. So you can do it either way. That part I don't really care about so much. I'm going to look at the files individually. So remember, I'm going to pick one and braid, and we're actually going to pick one right now, this one, and we're going to talk about it now. So hopefully this is one that you sent through the Dropbox. So there again, you should be able to go to the Dropbox and get a file that you submitted to me there, can you not? Right? So that's why you want to have your work there. Number one is so that we can talk about it in class, and then also so that I can get that. And then, as was asked, sometimes there are, like case study number 4, and it says right at the top, there's no data files needed for this. So sometimes you have to start from scratch. Okay? So as you're bringing up that file, I want to call the roll so I get to know you. Question.
What if you say something like you want the initial somewhere?
Your initial just in the front of the file. And if you put it at the end, it's okay. But it's easier if you put it for me in the front of the file name, just in case I end up having to download them. And because sometimes I download them all as a group and grade them at home, and sometimes I do it a little differently. All right, so bring up that file, and let me find out who's here. Charles.
Here.
James Bluster.
Bloomster.
Did I say it wrong?
I said Bloomster.
Bloomster.
Yes.
Bloomster, right? Okay. Christina.
Right here.
Nathan. Keith. Sally. Chris. Howell. Morrow. Jay.
Yeah.
James. Brian. Renee. Brandon. Terrence. I believe Terrence, I didn't look at my class list today. It's possible Terrence may have dropped. So those of you that had him on your project team, I'll find that out. Did you hear from him? Anybody that had Terrence on your team? No, I think he may have dropped. I need to check that list. And that's the other good reason why it's better to have bigger project teams to start, is sometimes people do have to drop for whatever reason. So, David Newcomb.
Two.
Michael.
Here.
Hector. Jason. Jason?
Oh.
Jason. Nathan. So we have two Nathans. Lee.
What?
Heather. Scott. Peter.
Here.
Where are you, Peter?
Right here.
Okay. I'm trying to learn faces, so that's why I'm thinking, and Stacy. Okay. Okay, so that new home file is one that we're gonna take a look at, so I'm gonna bring that up as well.
Oh. Notice that whenever you open a project file, it brings up a message about how new tasks are scheduled. And in general, you want those auto-scheduled, so that you would want to double check that. And that might be why they have it as a pop-up there, just to make sure that you can check that. So does everyone that has that file with them today have it open? Okay, now I understand that from the back of the room, you can't read this. So I will talk to you, and I want you to look at your specific thing there. And if you have questions about anything, let me know. So first of all, we have a, if you drag this view bar over, drag that all the way over so that you can see the predecessors. So we see a predecessor column. And actually, if we have that, I just realized I actually want to review some terminology first. Let me do that real quick, and then we will do that. So what I have right here, you should know the answer to this, but I want to review terminology a little bit. So a task that must be completed before a different task can be started is a predecessor. So you need to know that it's a column heading, but you need to understand what that is. So if something is labeled as a predecessor to another task, that's what you are telling the software, this one has to be completed before that next task can start. Okay? Now what about this? I'm not going to read these to you. I know you can read. What's this? Resources. So you'll see that term a lot, and you'll see a place where we're going to enter that into the software. What about this? Or scope creep.
Scope creep.
That's what we're talking about.
We don't like it. That's why it's creepy. Okay, what about the next one? Risk. And one of the big responsibilities of a project manager, but really the whole team, but the project manager really gets saddled with this a lot, is minimizing and managing risk. It's one of the biggest responsibilities now as a project manager. So you want to be sure that you avoid miscalculations. So that's why getting everything started right from the beginning is really helpful. Okay, there's just two more. It's right, it's a critical path, but tasks that are critical tasks are on the critical path. And remember, if any one of those is delayed, it's going to affect the end date of the project. That's why it's called the critical path. And which view?
Network
Keep going.
diagram.
The network diagram, that's right. The network diagram is really one of the quickest ways to see the critical path, and we'll be changing to that view. Okay? So that's it. Just a little bit of terminology.
Okay, so now back to our project, but reminded me, I wanted to make sure you understood what predecessors was. So we are saying that we cannot purchase the lot until the financing has been secured. Very logical, right? And one of the things that we didn't see last week is that, remember, all of our tasks on our Gantt chart all started at the same time. And in real life, of course, that never happens. They are dependent, so now you see that they move out and one is dependent on the other, all right? So for this purchase lot, there should have been a note added to that to verify EPA inspections. So you would want to make sure that you did that.
Yep.
Let's see. So switch to the network diagram. And remember, we can see the things that are on the critical path because they are shown in red. And the one that's the current task that I have selected is in black, kind of reverse video. Then scroll down and go to the calendar view. Maybe it's up. It's up, sorry. Go to the calendar view.
So how do you put the left hand side?
Oh, come over here to the left and right click and do view bar. So over here you should be able to right click and show the view bar. Everybody get that to show? Yeah, I think that should be default, is to have that display, and if you start working with it at home, it would be. So the nice thing, and so they had to go in, what's the advantage of each of these views that are there? But you are gonna find that you will work with different views depending on what you're doing, but it might be in a project team meeting, you might want to print out one page of your calendar so that everybody can look at it or display it or post it somewhere and refer to it so you can see everything that's there. So in the beginning, it's just talking about these different views and how they can be useful to you. All right. Does anybody recall, did you have any questions about this particular case study as you worked through it? It's fairly simple, but no, and you might want to start, if you have questions about things, you might want to start making notes or sending them to me, because I want you to feel like if you have questions about it, that those are going to get answered. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to talk a little bit about what you're going to see in tutorial 2. And it's going to talk more about these predecessors. So what I can see right here are which task is the predecessor to that one. If I want to find out some more information about it, one of the things that it taught you in tutorial 1 was how to split the view and bring up a task form down here at the bottom. Do you remember how to do that? So we're going to go to the View tab, and there's a little button or a box, a check box, and you're going to check Details. And this is actually new, I think. I never used to use this method for bringing this up for 2010, but it does seem to be pretty easy to do. And so what I'm seeing here, mine is on Purchase Lot, and what I can see here is the predecessor name, Secure Financing. So click down on Frame House. And on Frame House, I can see information here, but I can see information here. And this view is kind of nice because I can see that, well, actually we're going to see a lot of things here later on as we work through, but this predecessor is for the cement. So we've got to do that one before we can frame it. And notice right here in the type, it has FS. In tutorial 2, it's going to talk about 4 basic types of task dependencies. And the FS is the most common used, probably 90% of the time, and it is finish to start. So what that means is this has to be finished before that one can start. We can use this button over here to go to next. And we see that the next one under roof house is the one that we're on, and it shows it right here. And the predecessor is frame. You gotta have the frame up before you can roof it, yes.
Doesn't look like that. I don't have the predecessor part on the bottom. It has the task I'm on, but it doesn't show me what predecessor.
Yeah, sure. Do you have your predecessor set up?
I just have the left side.
Let me show you how you can get that if you don't. So sometimes the view isn't always like we think it's gonna be, right? So the nice thing about when you're down here at the bottom, what this view that we're looking at right now first shows the resource, and later we'll have those. So it's really good to see those there. We have resource and predecessor. There's other things that you can actually see in this split view. If you come down here in this bottom form area and right click, you can see that we have resources and predecessors selected, but you could also see predecessors and successors. You can see resources. So there's a lot of different things here that you can see. And if you're tired of looking at the split, you can click on this to not show the split anymore, or you could go back to the view tab. But so that's all that he had to do here, was make it so that it says resources and predecessors, because for whatever reason, it didn't open in this particular view, okay? Now I think actually all of these are finished to start, but you could have some, actually installing, installation, and bricking the exterior. Those might be able to start at the same time. So you might be able to change those to a start to start. So when you come over here and click, you can click on this drop down arrow right here and change that to start to start. And what that means is that those can actually start at the same time. And you would do something like that to try to speed up your project date, because after you get your task list in and you go, wow, this isn't going to be done until June, and I've got to have it done in May. Now, as a team, we've got to start looking at this and seeing what we can do at the same time. Or we might also, maybe another way to do that is, let's go down to install plumbing. And we think that installing the electrical, okay, no, actually, let's go to install electrical. The predecessor task is install plumbing. Let's say they're on a finish to start, but let's say that we wanted to say, well, they could actually start installing the plumbing when the install electrical is 2 days in. So we could change this lag to 2 days, which actually, and they'll talk about this in the chapter, talked a little bit now, but you'll hear more about this. If you do 2 days lag, what that actually does in the positive, it sends it out 2 days into the future. So if you want them to overlap by 2 days, you need to type in a -2. And you can type in right in this field right here, -2 days, and change that so that they overlap. So now, I'm going to scroll over here to my Gantt chart so that I can see, so you can see the visual here. And so now what happens when I do the -2 days and I do next? See how this now wrapped in, and it shows that these are overlapping, and that's starting when this one just has started 2 days. So when you get into the tutorial 2, it's going to start talking about those dependencies. So there's start to finish, there is start to start, there is finish to start, and then I don't remember the fourth one, that finish to finish. And you'll find out that most of the time those last two don't apply very often. Most of the time they are either start to start or finish to start. Very seldom do you see a finish to finish, but it's possible, and it's out there, and the book does give you an example of that, but it's not very common that it would do that, okay? So you're going to be working with these dependencies. Now, in addition to making changes to those there, let's get rid of that. Let's go to view and just uncheck the details, and that goes away. Or you could right-click and get rid of the show split. The other way that you can and by the way, notice that I see my changes right here. So any changes that you do in any part of that is going to be reflected here as well. Now, yours might not have it exactly like mine, but mine has its task 6, which is roof start to start. And this one is 9 finish to start with a lag of 2 days. You see how that shows up in the predecessors column? Now, another way you can modify those is to come over here to one of these lines with the arrow in between the tasks. And notice as soon as you point at that, it's going to show you what the link is here and the lag, and you can just double click on that, and you can actually come in and just change the dependency and the lag right here. So you can also do that. So some of both the good and the bad of project is there's so many different ways of doing the same thing. But that's kind of a nice thing to do there. Okay? Now the other thing is paint exterior does not have any dependency, right? Do you see that?
Paint interior?
Right. Does it? It doesn't have anything. And so, go to click on paint exterior, and then click on your task.
It's interior.
Tab. Oh, no, I'm sorry, interior.
Yeah.
Saying the wrong thing, sorry. Paint interior, and then, yeah, we're not painting the brick, thank goodness. So we've got task, and then what I want you to see here is this little button over here is very helpful. It's called scroll to task. So when you have your task selected here, and you click on scroll to task, it automatically goes over and shows you where those are in the Gantt chart. And what does that show? That's showing that we're going to start painting the interior the first day of the project. Yeah. Now, maybe, right? We really don't even have that done yet. We're starting out the same day. We're painting. So, that's a problem, isn't it? A little bit. So, when you guys are working on your projects, you need to make sure that as you're creating your task lists and your dependencies, that you don't have something like this. Not only are we painting, we're also laying carpet the same day. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. So we're doing all of those starting at the same time. So the way that you would actually create a dependency is we've got to have the drywall up. And actually it also has to be textured, by the way, but maybe they're assuming that the texturing is a part of that. So, you know, I might ask a little bit about that. Pardon me?
That's why it takes 2 days.
Yeah, but that's right. So yeah, we're hoping that that's the reason. But so if I say, well, really, this paint interior can't happen until this is done, the way that I link those, the way that I create dependencies, is I just with my mouse select both of those, and you can do that now. And then on the task tab, right up here in the schedule area, you see a bunch of little icons here. So make sure that you get the right one. The one that says link tasks. Okay? And when you click on that, then it automatically makes one a predecessor of the other, and then it changes the start and end dates. If I want to do multiple tasks, let's say that I want to link all 3 of those, I can select all 3 and then do the link. And then it automatically makes all of them, and it automatically by default is finished to start. So it's saying we are not going to start laying carpet until we're done painting. And we're not gonna start installing wood trim until we're done laying carpet. But if you're in a multi-level house, you know, maybe you could start doing some of this at the same time. So that's where you would want to create the lag. Okay, makes sense? All right. Now the other thing that it's going to have you do in tutorial 2 that I just want to preview a little bit is you are going to change the calendar. So where you're going to go with this is if you go to the Projects tab, you should see a button here on the ribbon that's called Change Working Time. You see that? So when you click on that, it opens up the standard calendar. Now notice that this standard calendar is in what year?
This year.
2012, and what are our project dates? 2014. So you don't want to set stuff in 2012 to apply to your 2014 project. So you need to make sure that you are going to the right year. And luckily, it has a scroll bar that you can move to a year pretty easily, and then go through to the next month. So let's go to September of 2014. September of 2014. And notice that this is the standard project calendar. Now what I want to tell you is, this is one of the most common things that students have trouble understanding. So I'm trying to do a better job of going over it. You need to read it and do the practice, but this, for whatever reason, is one of the most difficult parts of understanding. But so this is my standard calendar. It's automatically applied to every task unless I do something different. Okay? So what I want to put on here are the things that do apply to the whole project as a whole. For example, Labor Day. Maybe we're not going to make everybody mad by making them work on Labor Day, so we're going to declare that a holiday. You've got a labor on Labor Day. Did you? Did you work on Labor Day? Did you?
Military doesn't get time off.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of places don't. But your project team will love you if they get Labor Day off. And so we're going to make it a holiday. So it's usually the first Monday, which would be, September 1. Now, if I'm doing this, I'm checking that out on a regular calendar first before I'm doing it here to make sure that I'm putting it in. Yes?
Is there a way to import U.S. holidays?
You know, I think that there is a way to import in from Outlook.
Okay.
But I don't go into that much detail because this seems to be just doing this seems to be difficult.
Right.
But I'll see what I can find out about that. I haven't done that for a while.
Okay.
I think there is. And also to bring it from Outlook. But let's say that we want to make this a holiday. And right now you can see that Saturday and Sunday are non-working days because they're gray. And actually, if I click on the 6th, it tells me even right here, September 6th is non-working. But September 1st, as of right now, is a working day. So what we want to do is we want to make that a holiday down here in the exceptions area. You want to make sure that work weeks isn't selected. Exceptions does come up, but we're going to click here in the name, and you're going to type in Labor Day or holiday or whatever, so that we know that it's a day off. And then when you click in Start, notice that it automatically goes to where we had clicked here. So it fills it in, but you could put in the dates right there if you want to, but it's easier to click here and do that. And notice that it also says September 1 now is non-working. So any of our tasks that we had scheduled to work on that Monday now get moved to the next day automatically. And which, if it affects the successor task, you see how that does that? Everything is kind of just a domino effect, and it does that. So we've changed all of those. So let's do one more. Let's go down to Thanksgiving, that would be the next big holiday, right, on Thursday the 27th.
Yeah, my birthday's on Saturday.
So click on that, click down at the exceptions, and type Thanksgiving. And when you click over here, it automatically puts in that date and makes it non-working. And then also notice that it shows up here differently in your calendar, right? Okay, so that is, now we've made changes, so I'm gonna click on OK. And we have just made changes and any date that would be affected by that. Let's look and see what task probably would be.
Yeah.
This one, framing the house, right? So why didn't the duration change?
Oh, because you're not working a day.
We're not working a day, but why did my duration change to 16 days?
Because 15 days is worst case scenario if you have a bill separate.
Okay, so when we put in a duration,
I don't think project sees it that way.
well, when we put in a duration, it's gonna say 15 days until we say that it might take another day, but what it did do was it changed this. So that this now is, that task ends on a different day.
So it's just
Yes.
counting it as 15 days long, it doesn't care what days they are.
Exactly, it doesn't care. It doesn't care what it is, it just counts it. So now, it should take us 1 day longer here, instead of finishing on Monday, it'll automatically go to Tuesday. But the duration, if we think it's gonna take 15 days, it's gonna take 15 days. Does that make sense? So we're not changing durations when we're making changes to the calendar, but it automatically will change our start and finish dates for us. Okay, now one more thing on the calendar is we're gonna create a special calendar that will apply only to a specific task. So in this case, our drywall team, that they're gonna take 10 days to drywall, but they are going to be willing to work 7 to 7, and they're gonna be willing to work on Saturdays. So we're gonna create a task calendar just for drywall that is going to reflect those hours. No one else has to work that, okay? So the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna go back to change working time. And we wanna leave it here, standard calendar, and we're gonna come over here and click on create new calendar. We do want it to be a copy of the standard because we want those holidays we just put in there to be in there. So we want that, but now we can give it a new name, and we're just gonna call this drywall schedule or something like that. And then we want it to make a copy, and then we click on OK. So notice, now it has drywall in here. It still has our exceptions, but what we're gonna do is change the regular work week hours. So that's, you're gonna click on this tab that says work weeks, okay? And we're going to, with this default here, you don't really have to give it a name here. I don't think your exercises have you do that, they might. You could do this, but what we wanna do is make sure that this is active. Then we're gonna come over here, do you see the details button over here? We're gonna click on details. And notice that right now it says use project default times for these days, or we could set them to non-working time, or we could set it to these specific working times. So automatically by default, it assumes everybody's working 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, nothing on Saturday and Sunday. That's the default. So we are going to select Monday through Friday, and you can just click and drag down and select Monday through Friday. And we're going to say we want to set the days to these working times. So we select, we put the circle in here, and we're going to change this 8 a.m. to 7.
We're gonna give them lunch.
Nah. No, they have a lunch built in here. Do you see that?
Well, by law, you have to do 30 minutes at least. Work over by.
So I'm gonna type in 7,
We got like,
and then we are still gonna give them a lunch. So notice that they have from 12 to 1 for a lunch. And then down here in the 5, we're gonna change that to 7 p.m. Long days.
Trying to kill these men.
That's right, we are. Monday through Friday, but we're paying them well. So that they're happy, because we're paying them big bucks. We'll talk about later about overtime. But anyway, so Monday through Friday, 7 to 7 with an hour for lunch, right? And we click on OK. We're gonna do Saturday in just a second.
about 40 minutes.
So what we see here is now when you click in any one of those days, you're gonna see your hours reflected right over here. Okay? Now, let's go back to details, and we do need to take care of Saturday, because we're gonna work these 4 people on Saturday as well. So we're gonna click down here on Saturday, and we're gonna set the date to this specific time. And there's nothing in there now, because we didn't ever have them work that way before. We're only gonna have them work 7 to 11 on Saturday. So you're gonna click in there and type 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And notice that I didn't always capitalize, and it's pretty forgiving there, and we'll make those match. 7 a.m. to 11, and I click on OK. And I click on, so now you always want to double check, because Saturday now shouldn't be gray anymore. So Saturday, but it'll show when you click there, notice it shows the times right there, 7 to 11. And now we click on OK. And we come back, and now look at the start and finish date of our install drywall. It's 10 days, and it started on the 10th and finished on the 23rd, right? So no changes happened yet, because even though we created that calendar, we haven't applied it to the task. All right? So we're going to double click on it. Double click on the task, and that brings up the task information dialog box. We're going to come over here to the advanced tab. Advanced. And then we're going to choose the calendar from the drop down. And our drywall schedule should be there, or drywall something, whatever you named it. So we opened the task information, we went to the advanced tab, and we changed the calendar to drywall, and you click on OK. And now it comes back, and notice that now instead of being done on the 23rd, they're done on the 20th. So we have just cut off 3 days from our schedule. And it also gives you a little note here automatically that lets you know that a special calendar was applied. Okay? So those are kind of I think, the more difficult things in tutorial 2 that students traditionally have trouble with, but make sure you work through your book. Don't try to just jump right to that review assignment. Work through the tutorial, and so we are going to do an in-class activity. So let's just go ahead and close this. You may still have some questions, I guess I'm thinking, but those will be answered for you as you work through the book. All right, now go to D12. Now earlier, and it looks like it's still the case, we've been having a lot of slowness.
D2L hasn't been working since like yesterday afternoon.
Well, it was working, I think it was working earlier, because
Right now.
yeah, and remember, that's why I gave you that other way to get in besides the portal. So sometimes if you try to get into the portal, you can't. But, so we're doing online.ppcc.edu. I've also noticed if I say I only want the stuff that's delivered securely, sometimes I don't get everything. So that tells you something too. Okay. into the course site. What I want you to do is go to the Dropbox, and under activity 3, remember activity 2 was a discussion, and that was due today, so I haven't graded that. I wait till after the due date, and then I grade, in case you're wondering. And then in this folder, you should see 2 files. There is Front Range Office Upgrade and Front Range Floor Plan. I want you to save those documents to your H drive in a 202 folder. If you don't have one, create one. And then I'm going to pair you up, and I'm going to give you about, you'll end up having about 15 minutes to work on this. Oh, no, it doesn't let me. What this is a little bit of a narrative about a IT project. And so what I'm going to have you do is look at the narrative, look at the floor plan, and then in a group of 2 in pairs, I want you to come up with a project proposal for this. And so remember that project proposal form is on the content page here in D2L. And so I want you to come up with a goal, some objectives. I want you to list the people on your team, okay? And so we'll see how we do with time. So go ahead and start on that. And let me see here. So I'll just have you work with the 2 people next to you. So you 2 will be a pair. You two, would you mind coming back here? Or we're going to end up, we might end up on, hold on one second. So you guys work together, you guys 2. So we're 2. So if you would, I'll just have you work with these 2, okay? So you understand what I want you to do? Okay. Now, only one of you needs to complete the form. You both need to work on it together, but only one of you needs to type it. Like everybody's able to get to the documents okay. The form is on the content page.
It's just project.
Project proposal form on the content page, yes. And by the way, that's the form that your team will use. I'll send you an email or post an announcement, that project proposal form. I'm going to ask you to turn that in to me by Tuesday.